good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, everyone, to the Leg Kick Podcast. I am your host, David, joined here by two esteemed gentlemen of the. Jeremy, what tribe were you saying that you were from before?
We are a Kim and Aqua Pim.
Okay. Getting specific with it. I like it. I'm joined by two.
The natural enemies of the Ashanti tribe. I probably should put that out there. I don't want
to say
the Ashanti tribe's the biggest tribe, isn't it? Aren't they?
They conquered all of Ghana. Yeah.
And the language, the Twi language, is the one that we speak.
Right.
Thank there's a little bit of West African history for you.
Yeah, thank you for the Ghanaian history lesson.
Next we'll talk about the story of Ahsoka next. No,
Jesus, gentlemen, this is the MMA podcast. How are you doing, first of all?
Not bad. As you can tell, I should have wore this when January came around, but still, it still matters to me, and yeah. So
I'm doing good. It was a nice day outside, and an even better evening because Twitter's got me rolling in tears right now. I think you guys know why.
Dog, man, you guys want to just get into it?
Jake,
let's jump into it.
Jake was like, hit me, Jake, you can do it.
All right, let's jump into it because I actually don't have any idea what you guys are talking about. So please break it to me.
I think that goes into news. Let's just call it news, not MMA news or boxing news or whatever. Let's just go into news because there's two pieces of news that I actually want to focus on. This card, meh, but the news. Jake Paul nearly got killed today, murdered on camera because he decided to get into a stare down with Floyd Mayweather, and it was all jovial, it was all peaceful, until Jake Paul decided to take Floyd Mayweather's hat. And Floyd Mayweather, for the first time since, I would say, the 24/7 special with Al Heyman, when De La Hoya came into the ring, I would say for the first time since that, was incensed on camera. He lost his damn mind. Anyone go see so there's like 5 different camera angles. They all kind of don't really show everything. But basically what happened is Jake Paul took Floyd Mayweather's hat, tried to run away. Floyd caught up to him, hit him with 3 punches. Okay. Then he got separated. Floyd tried to grab him again. Then there was a melee where security guards tried to break him up and someone got their hat. And then I don't know how, but somehow Jake Paul weaseled his way out to like a corner, and Floyd chased after him to kill him. I think that's what happened with chanting, and I chanting, not saying, chanting. You don't ever disrespect me. You won't ever disrespect me.
Fake.
Over again. And and yeah. By the way, Jake Paul isn't even the one who's fighting. It's Logan Paul who's fighting. So it's Logan Paul who's the one fighting Floyd Mayweather. So that's another detail to this.
I don't think it was all the way set up. I don't think it was all the way fake. But I think it was kind of set up. I think it was set up. I think the part where Jake walks over while he's doing press conference interviews is set up, and he was probably like, I don't know if it was conspired, but I have a feeling maybe he talked to Floyd on the side, and Floyd was like, sure, do some antics or whatever. The hat part though, I don't think Floyd was ready for. The hat part, like Twitter is talking about Floyd's hairline and stuff. Like you saw Floyd's his hair
Floyd looks good. I'm not gonna lie.
No, they're bald spots. Come on, they're bald spots.
Hey, the hairline looked like it was holding up. I'm gonna be honest.
No, it definitely wasn't. It was letting go.
All right, fair enough.
No, I think, but wow, so disrespectful to touch Floyd Mayweather's, like Floyd Mayweather of all people. Yeah, I think that's what took Floyd over edge. I think the punches were definitely real, but I feel like it started from a setup place. For if I'm being real,
I can see that. I can definitely see that.
and then on the point of Logan Paul, like it's just.
I forgot the wrinkle of this. Logan Paul got in the scuffle to try to put some boots to Floyd in
Yeah.
the side, and then got pulled back by some security guards, and it took two guys to pull him off. It was insane. Sorry, go ahead.
Mess.
I feel like Jake is like in a way taking Logan's like trying to make it about him in a way. And then also this is all on the eve of, or no, not on the eve, but this is also taking away from Canelo versus Billy Joe Saunders, which is Saturday, like taking away the attention from it. And it's weird because like, Canelo said all that stuff about if they were both in their primes, he would beat Floyd, and there was kind of like a reignited, not really beef, but just like war words back and forth. And Floyd was like, "No, it wouldn't happen." And I don't know, all seems contrived.
I mean, I can see the idea that like Floyd, like Jake came up and they definitely had like a contrived thing, and then it went awry and Floyd got pushed over the edge. I could definitely see that. And I do agree. I do think, do I like either Paul? No, but I do think out of the two, who would I say has matured better over their years? I would say Logan, right? And I would say that it would be nice for Logan to get a moment. Um, even though it he was kind of the one who had the first boxing match. It would be nice for him to kind of get his moment, where he did secure this fight against Floyd, but instead it's his brother taking it away. I agree with the sentiment. But here's the thing though. The people who will watch this fight are not, well, boxing fans will watch. MMA fans will watch for sure. But the people that are going to take this from, let's say, 750K or to a million, dash a million to 2 million, maybe 3 million. 3 million, absolutely not. But the people who will push this over the top in terms of like record pay-per-view buys are not your boxing fans. They're spectacle fans, right? Because of that, I don't necessarily think I think it's an indictment on sports in general and our sport culture, but I don't necessarily think in this isolated incident or other isolated incidents that we should compare Canelo and Billy Joe, or for example, Robert Whittaker and Calvin Gastelum, to any of these spectacle fights, right? Like they're different. They're different. Now, if there's a conversation of should they get more eyes as opposed to a Billy Joe and Canelo, that is a completely different conversation, and that's one that I go on this show every week, and every week I talk about the way we promote our sport is wrong because of that. But that's a different conversation. You get what I'm trying to say?
I get what you're trying to say. And I think it talks to something deeper, a deeper issue in the sport in general. But I was just more so speaking to the show of it all. Like I'm very entertained by the show. Is why I was bringing up all those storylines. Like, David, you got anything? Do you have anything to say about this?
The whole thing is a spectacle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Floyd Mayweather at this point should really be ashamed of himself. He deserves to get his hat taken for even agreeing to fight this dude in the first place. Let's not forget, Logan Paul is 0-1. It's not even like he won his first exhibition fight. So for the greatest, boxer in recent time to decide to box somebody with an 0-1 record, I mean,
in an exhibition.
So I don't care. It could be behind like with your fighting like resume wouldn't go box some random wouldn't go like fight some random dude outside of a Walmart parking lot. But it seems like Floyd is all right with it as long as he's getting paid, and that's fine.
I will say for 100 million, I'd fight a lot of people.
Hilarious. But the problem is once again, yeah, there's just so many problems to this. I feel like Floyd is more than comfortable playing, kind of like the foil to a racist or playing like I don't know what kind of role in whatever kind of fight build up, but he's
I just
okay.
think at the end of the day, sorry, go
I'm just
ahead.
saying like the Conor McGregor thing had like a really weird dynamic as well. And now here we are in another fight with the KSI fight had a really weird dynamic with Logan Paul, and now here we are with another fight with the.
I feel like that's always been a thing. Sorry to cut you off. I feel like that's always been a thing in boxing, though specifically, is the whole black versus
white
thing.
and the Great White Hope.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I just think it's weird to be feeding into that.
Yeah.
And for Floyd, like, what have you got to prove? Like by beating some YouTuber, like you
I
still.
will say, for the Logan Paul versus KSI story, I think the whole thing with Logan Paul, and I think the reason why people are warming up to Logan Paul a little bit is this was more of a redemption story and a redemption arc with Logan Paul when I did my research. Because you see the exhibition, you see how hated he was, and he puts up for a YouTuber a good fight against a guy who beat the brakes off of another YouTuber, and people warmed up. And I know it sounds crazy, but people warmed up, and he then puts out podcasts, and then he does other
Yo,
things.
nobody's warming up to this dude, man.
Not
Like,
Jake, not
Mike, can
Jake.
we
Hold
stop this
on, hold
narrative?
on,
Just
hold
because
on,
they
hold
got
on, hold on,
views
hold.
doesn't mean that anybody actually likes the Paul. And let me not say anybody.
Logan.
There probably are people who like millions of people who like the Pauls, but to say that the fighting community gained some kind of respect for.
Not for. Sorry, let me repeat. Let me make myself clear. Logan Paul, not Jake Paul.
No, 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 I'm
Logan
saying that
Paul.
to say the fighting
And
community
I
gained
think
some
it
kind of respect
was.
for Logan Paul after the KSI fight is completely disingenuous. None of those guys had any respect after that fight. The whole thing was a mockery.
Well, not the fight
Neither
fans,
of
of
them
course.
were.
We know what it was, but I'm saying to people, outside people. You talk to outside people, you look at the comments for outside people, and a lot of people say, I actually like Logan now. I like him more than his brother. He's the less hated brother now, et cetera, et cetera.
They do say that. They
I
do.
just feel like he's just the one who isn't as
I'm just
loud as
saying the
Jake Paul.
hmm?
Like Jake Paul is comfortable being out there as the villain, as the
Yeah.
heel. Logan Paul hasn't even had a fight to promote. So like it doesn't make sense to say like, oh, I like him because, I don't even know why you would like him. There was nothing from that fight. No disrespect to anybody, but there was nothing from that fight
Well,
that
it's
like
what
showed
it's
me
all I'm
anything.
saying is that's how they promoted it. That's how it did, and it worked. That's all
All
I'm saying.
I'm saying is that I left that KSI versus Logan Paul fight thinking like y'all dudes trained 6 months for this and this is the best you could come up with. Like, oh my God. Like give me a shot. Give me a
It
shot.
wasn't good. But
It
David,
was
this is the
not good.
problem. This is the problem with us. We have to be able to separate our minds from combat sports to what spectacle people think. And if you've ever had a frustrating argument with a casual on things they think about with MMA fighters, and if I have to hear one more Habib, all Habib does is hump and crotch sniff, you
Hilarious.
know, then I'm
My
gonna
thing is like, I just as you said, it's a sad indictment on the sport that really it's like a YouTuber that's the biggest payday for people. But since we got Conor McGregor, this is kind of like how it's being going.
I don't
And
think it's a sad indictment. I
I
it
think
is
think it's a
definitely a
sad
sad
I don't
indictment.
think it's a sad indictment. I think the people who, well, actually, you know what? Now that I say it out loud, the people who this is bringing are gonna look at the sport completely differently. So
But they
I
would
just
have
think it's
never
a
looked
sad
at the sport
indictment.
in general. They would
I
have
just think
never
it's a
looked.
sad indictment because you have a pure version of something that people are, either revolts by, or they don't support as much as some kind of weird bastardized version being used basically as another platform for social media stars to make money. Like
David,
that's
you're
all it
starting to
is.
come to my side. You're
Like
starting to come to my side. Remember when I
no, for
said
real.
that?
Like I
Yeah.
mean, think about it. Like you don't even have to have any skills anymore, and I'm comfortable with this reality, especially now that I've seen like the Mike Tyson versus I can't even remember Roy Jones fight. Like you don't have to. It's not about skills. It's about following, and it's about
Well,
like,
that
branding
was
and
different.
how.
That
Pardon?
was a nostalgia. That was different. That was more of a nostalgia factor,
Yeah,
right?
but I mean, realistically, like, what was the buildup? Oh, does Tyson still got it? Oh, if he catches Jones, like, come on, guys, like, let's cut it out. Let's cut it out. Nobody's getting knocked out. Like,
Well, clearly, I knew
nobody's
that
getting
from the
knocked out. We're
jump.
watching two 40-plus men like box in an
50.
extremely controlled environment. Like, it's gonna be sprayed. Like, they're gonna be sprayed. And even then, like, it's clear, even both fighters, their skills had diminished towards the end of their career, and 10 plus years later, we want to watch them fight against each other. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, I'm done ranting about this because at the end of the day, you'll get your money, but don't try to tell me like this is an honorific sport at all because who
Well,
cares? Like,
it can
it's all
be.
about the money at the end of the day. And also, shame on the boxing people training these guys. Like, I feel like there's not enough people. There's professional boxers, real serious boxing trainers stepping out of the gym, closing the gym, starting new gyms,
For
just
celebrities.
for the celebrities, for the
Because they bring in
fans. So
money.
like you can't say like the fighting community, blah blah blah, blah blah. Like at the end of the day, these guys are going to become the fighting community.
Well, look, here's the ins and outs of that point. There's a lot of things there and a lot to unpack, and I think I agree with you with a lot of it. Here's the thing: we can be that sport. I don't know why a celebrity boxing match can do better than a boxing match, but a celebrity basketball match will do substantially worse than a celebrity basketball match. Actually, I know why, and it's because the way we promote our sport has its drawbacks, and this is one of those drawbacks in its ugliest form. One. Two, if you've ever been to any gym, any owner of a boxing gym, MMA gym, Muay Thai, they'll tell you, and they'll tell me, Michael, the females are what brings in the money, right? The casuals are what brings in the money. So it's not the fighters. It's not the fighters because if you're going to go into the gym for a long time, you're going to look for the biggest pay cut. And if you don't like this gym, you're going to leave and go to another gym and you start shopping if you're a fighter. So because of that, they tend to kind of turn into these cardio gyms, right? They have the skills. They know what they're doing. And David, I don't know if you've seen the Ottawa scene, but you see like in the Ottawa scene, you see a lot of gyms. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to name names because I'm not going to go there. But you see a lot of gyms who turn into cardio gyms, or at least for a large portion of their classes, it's the soccer mom coming in and the 40-year-old office worker who wants to lose some weight. They come in and they do some pads and some exercises and they go home, right? Because they are what brings in the money, right? But if you go to a basketball practice, who brings in the money? It's the competitive, serious AAU guys. So it's the dynamics. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry. The people who bring up the money for the basketball team are the little kids who are signing up for all those basketball training camps.
Exactly,
And
to be great.
paying
To be great.
$1,000 to be part of like a 2 week training camp where they hoop against 100 other kids and get to listen to one speech by one NBA star or something like that.
Yeah, but they're doing it in the attempt to be great, to compete, right? And not to just
Be
kind of do something
healthy.
fun.
Yeah.
I
Right?
think
So
go
I
on.
just think it's the dynamics. It's the socio-dynamics of the culture of each sport and the way they promote sports. And in fairness, we kind of had to do that because remember, we were kind of thought of as this modern day gladiator cockfighting thing. We had to gravitate towards, no, that's not what we're about. We're about respect. We're about health. We're about fitness. And we had to kind of do these things. But the problem is, it's kind of taken away the respect of being great at being a fighter.
I'm not rolling, but I hear
In
your
fairness,
arguments.
fair enough.
I'm not rolling. I just think that perhaps in the fighting community we place more importance and significance in that stuff than it actually means in the real world, especially the
Wait,
commercial world.
significance on what? Place more significance on what?
Skills, greatness, legacy, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Because like it really isn't translating in terms of like
Fame
dollars, yeah, or even fame. But
or
But
dollars.
like, it's weird because in every other sport that isn't a combat sport, it does. Even in boxing, it kind of does, right? But for some reason, in mixed martial arts, it doesn't. And it's weird, but you're seeing it even in boxing that's starting to transition into that mixed martial arts model where the biggest fights are the biggest stories. So I'm just saying it's the sociodynamics of from the grassroots up where we're not focused on building up great athletes. We're focused on, the soccer mom and the office worker who come in.
killing me. I don't know if that is accurate. I would argue that, at most gyms, there are at least a couple of really not high level athletes. Let me not say that, but there's people who are taking it a little bit more serious than others.
Didn't say that, but I'm saying the bulk of the money comes from where?
Yeah, but that's the thing it's like that with everything though. With soccer, with badminton,
But
with
they're all.
everything.
But here's
Most
the
people
thing.
who play sports are not going to do it professionally. The
But they all think they
overwhelming
can.
majority of
But
sports players do it recreationally or at an amateur level. So there's no money involved at that level. If anything, you're paying to play. So like, of course, like for businesses, that's where they're going to focus their business on because that's just the majority of players fall into that category as opposed to 2% maybe if you're lucky.
okay, let me ask it like this, Jeremy. You played at a high level. How many kids? How many kids out of the high levels you played all thought they were going to make it to the NFL?
All of us, I'd say.
There we go. Right.
How many of them actually did though?
But they didn't. But that's not the point. That's not the point. They're building to get great. They're selling the dream of being great. They're selling the dream of being a competitor, right? Whereas we don't sell that because it's about fighting, right? I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying there's drawbacks, and this is one of those drawbacks, right?
I know. I feel like there's a deeper conversation to be had here. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
do you guys have any more thoughts on the Logan Paul Floyd Mayweather?
It was
Uh,
fun.
I think my final thoughts is like I feel like I'm watching WWE again. Like thank you for
Mess.
the entertainment, really.
I really thought someone was gonna fly over the top like Larry Holmes style. Man, David's just had enough.
Mess.
David's had
Okay.
enough.
Okay. So, do you guys want to quickly cover some MMA news before we get into the card that's coming up?
Yeah. How much time we have to focus on Diego Sanchez? Because I know we kind of went up over with the Jake
Okay.
Paul.
Let me quickly run down like a list of things that have happened since the last pod, and then we'll spend whatever time we have on Diego Sanchez, and then move on to the card, which is a fight night card, which is usually slang for we're going to be reviewing only the first couple of fights and maybe one other fight. But shouts out to all the fighters on the card. Okay, so I don't know if you've had a chance this weekend to pay attention or to watch the Chris Weidman and Ariel Helwani interview.
I saw parts of it.
Okay, but essentially, Chris Weidman, who had the horrific leg break in the last UFC last main big UFC card, has said that he 100% intends to return after a leg injury. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Okay, I'll say it like this: if Gordon Hayward, Chris Ware, and Paul George can come back from their leg injuries, why not? Right?
It's
and
a
Anderson
completely
Silva
different
too.
sport, man. Like it's a completely
Anderson
different
Silva
sport.
too, right?
And I'm thinking also, let's say that I'm the dude, not me, but putting myself in the head or the mind of the dude who's fighting Chris Weidman on his like comeback fight. First of all, he has a metal rod in his leg. I don't know if they're gonna keep it there or that just to like stabilize the bone
It's
heal.
not. It's they describe it as metal. It's not exactly metal, but that's way more complicated. But
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know, but anyway, my thing is like if I see you know a slightly compromised or even a healing Chris Weidman in front of me, the first thing I'm doing is blasting that leg,
100%.
testing it. Like let's see how
But
how well the
that's what
doctor
happened
does
to
the
Anderson
job.
Silva, right? Like a lot of people kept blasting his lead leg,
Mm.
right? After the Chris Weidman injury. Like they
Yeah, I
just
mean
kept blasting his legs.
he did get stopped with a leg kick.
Yeah,
Not
they
forget.
kept blasting his legs actually, or faking and blasting, right? And he was a lot more hesitant to kick, and he wasn't the same because, well, also because he was old, but because he was basically turned into a boxer at that point. So yeah,
But Chris Weidman says that he wants to come back in order to show those going through a hard time. Like really watch the interview. It was some dark stuff. He said like it's the hardest thing he's had to recover from, but he wants to show that people going through hard times that you can recover and find your way back on top. But my question to you is, do you think Chris Weidman has anything left to prove in MMA?
I I don't think it's about wins and losses anymore with him. I think it's just a matter of showing that he can come back at this point. Um,
But
I just think
knowing, oh, sorry, that pause
no,
was weird.
no, I know. I was just breathing in and out. I was just thinking like, yeah, I just think there's nothing to prove. Yeah, you're right. There's just what's the point, you know?
Yeah, knowing the consequences of the sport, like there's no guarantee that he's gonna go in there and not like re-injure himself in some kind of horrific way that has long-term impact on his quality of life. So, Jeremy, to flip it to you, I don't know enough about football, but if you have a player I'd have to think of a name, but who's achieved everything that they possibly can in the game, and they get injured one season, and they're basically going to sit a year out because let's be realistic, Chris Weidman's not coming back in the next year. I'd be lucky. I think we'd be lucky if he came back in 18 months. Truth be told, given the way he like described his injuries. But if there's a footballer or NFL football guy, whatever you dudes call yourselves, who like takes a year off, and comes back at the end of his career, like what are you like?
The
What would
name that
you
comes to my mind is Adrian Peterson, because the way you phrase the question, I'm thinking about a guy who has done it, had a horrific injury, and then come back and had like a pretty
Oh,
good
yeah.
season.
MVP year. MVP year.
Was that so that MVP? I was trying to remember. Was that MVP year when he almost broke was it Eric Dickerson's record, or it was somebody's record for
Yeah,
the
he had like 2000, some
yeah,
insane number like
2000
that.
some, or it was either Earl Thomas or
No, it was Eric Dickerson. It was Eric
it was
Dickerson.
Eric Dickerson. Yeah, like most rushing yards in a season. But so that was after his ACL injury.
Yeah, he tore his ACL completely off the bone
Yeah.
or something
So
like it's insane like that.
so
So
because that was the first name that came to mind, I'm trying to think. Like I'm trying to think. Chris Weidman at one point was probably like he was probably like the number one contender, right? Or oh no, he was
Chris
champion.
Weidman is a former
He was
champion, and
champion
that's the thing.
after
Like, if this
Anderson
was a
Silva.
Michael Bisping story where you're fighting towards the goal and you've never achieved the goal, then that's a different thing. But if you've already achieved the goal,
Right.
you've already been the man 10 years ago, because that Anderson Silva fight was almost 10 years at this point.
it was a long time ago.
Yeah, so like, and
Yeah,
you,
but that's the thing. Like Adrian Peterson was at the height of the sport, like the number one best running back of the sport, gets injured, and then he eventually comes back to reach the heights again. Like Chris Weidman before that leg break a couple weeks ago, wasn't he moving up the rankings, I believe? Or was he moving
No,
down? He was
he
moving
he,
down.
he
was
had a
on
big
a
win against like who was that gentleman? He had a big win against somebody, but the thing about that win was it probably moved him up like if anything up to 8, maybe 7 in the rankings. So it
I
wasn't.
think I think for me, it's I say get out because for most athletes, I say get out while it's on your own terms. I guess that's usually what they tell most athletes.
and
But then you have like the once in a while greats
I
who,
think that's part of the issue, that he's trying to leave on his own terms as opposed to having, his departure being dictated to him by this injury. Just for a heads up that his last win or his last fight before the Uriah Hall fight was against Omari Akhmedov.
There
And
it is.
won that one by decision. But before that, I believe he was on a 2, if not 3 fight losing streak.
He won like 3
Dominic
of it.
Reyes,
He was lost
Jacare, and Gegard Mousasi. Actually, no, the Mousasi fight was before his win over Kelvin Gastelum. So he was on a 2 fight losing streak. So he's still like in there with the top guys, but at the same time,
I
It
think
should
you
also
should.
be said.
I
It
think you
should
should
also
hang
be
it
said he was competitive in all those losses.
sure, yes, and he
I
was
think you should
saying,
hang it up though. Like you don't want to just be competitive. You're trying to win, right?
No, that's fair. That's fair.
yeah,
Yeah.
all right,
Anything else?
sorry, go on.
Anything else?
No, that's it for me. Get better, Mr. Weidman. I just hope he can walk again, man.
Yeah.
He was saying that he's bedridden for at least like 2 months. It's going to be a hard recovery for him. So I think he should be focused on that. And if if a fight is what he needs to motivate himself to like recover, then fair enough. But when it actually comes to squaring off, like he's going to be at a severe disadvantage with that, like realistically, in my opinion. Anyway. Just really quickly, Drakkar Close says Jeremy Stevens should be punished for his cheap shot during the face-off. What do you guys think? I thought it was cheap, and he probably should be punished. And also that the UFC should create some kind of like policy on face-off.
Okay, so this is my thing. Someone actually asked me this once a week I'll run like an Instagram Q&A session. And someone actually asked me what should be the punishment? And my answer is there shouldn't be. And I'll tell you why. Because we have allowed a culture to persist for so long where you can get physical at a face-off. And because of that, I don't necessarily think Jeremy Stevens was wrong for getting physical in a face-off when a culture allows him to do so. But do I think the act of getting physical in a face-off is wrong? Yes. So I do think the UFC should institute some sort of policy before someone gets hurt or a fight gets, called off like it did now. And meanwhile, Ion Cutelaba does what he does against Dustin Jacoby, and it's like, yo, you just saw a fight pull out because of stupidity, and you're trying that. So I think what it is that it's not just the UFC, by the way. I think in all combat sports we've allowed and instituted a culture. Look at Mayweather. Look at Mayweather versus Jake Paul, where people can get physical with each other during face-offs. And I think that's the problem. We have to get that out of our mind culturally. I don't know if that takes rules. I don't know if that takes guidelines. I don't know if that takes policy. I don't know if that takes social shaming. That could be a tool. Social shaming could be a tool. But I think until that culture is put away, I'd be hard pressed to punish somebody for just being a part of the culture.
Jeremy, what do you think?
This happened when today? I didn't even know Jeremy.
Last week, or it might have even been 2 weeks ago. And basically the fight was canceled because during the face-off, Jeremy Stevens, I think, pushes Drakkar Close so hard that it gives him like whiplash and he gets nerve damage in his neck and fight's canceled.
Well, it was supposed to be this week.
No, it was like a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, okay. Jeez.
Like literally at the face-off, like the Friday before the fight.
Yeah, I don't get why you would fight at a face-off or at a press conference. I don't get it personally.
But if you watch it, it's like this is what Jeremy Stevens does. He shoves people at a press conference. That's his thing, right?
Every press conference?
Every press conference, he gets physical. And every press conference, people love it. And there's MMAJunkie.com, not to call them out because they do good work, but there's MMAJunkie.com going, things got physical at the press conference.
Things got a little heated.
And
wait, but
I'm
sorry, I missed the name of the guy who he shoved.
Drakkar Close.
And what, he was just going to be like, no, I'm not going to take this?
No, he was saying that they should be, that Jeremy Stevens should face some kind of sanctions.
Oh, okay.
Because he got hurt. He got hurt. He got nerve damage, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so what do I think about it? Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get that part of the sport, but
I mean, I wouldn't do it, I think, but then again, I can see the argument about getting into your opponent's head before the fight. Um, and I can see the argument of how we've drawn arbitrary lines about when violence is okay and is not. Especially when these guys are gonna fight the next day. So like, what? Not what's the difference, but like, we're gonna fight anyway. So like, why are we getting
but
worried?
I will say though, if you retaliate to somebody putting their hands on you, then I'm okay with it. But to put your hands on somebody, just to get in their head, I think it's dumb.
I don't know.
I just think that we've instituted it. The problem is we've just allowed this to go on for so long.
Yeah.
So it's now become part of people's thing. Like Ian Kutalaba, before grabbing Justin Jacoby, yelled at Khalil Roundtree and was like, in who was that gentleman's face? The last guy to beat Vadim Nemkov, Ankalaev. He was in Ankalaev's face and got physical with him right before the fight. We've allowed this to happen.
All I'm saying is, like, if you guys are gonna do all that, it better be a gosh darn good fight, because that Kuzelaba fight, man, oh my goodness. Anyway, I didn't want to spend too long on this one. That was really a quick hit one. Another quick hit is Marina Rodriguez and Michelle Waters. In fact, let's skip that one for now because we'll talk about that when we talk about the cards, the upcoming card, because we have a change in the main event. Nate Diaz and Leon Edwards pushed back to UFC 263. They were going to fight at UFC 262 this May 15th, but that's been pushed back by a month, essentially because Nate Diaz has some kind of injury. I guess, thoughts, gentlemen?
I'm cool with it. Like, yeah, get yourself right? Like,
it's a pretty good card, anyways. But
yeah.
Still,
it would have been nice, but
yeah, it would have been nice.
Awesome. Okay. Let's see if there's any other thing that's really interesting to discuss. Oh yeah, we have a Bellator card tomorrow. Archuleta versus Pettis. We have Rumble Johnson versus some Brazilian guy. No disrespect.
Jose
Azevedo.
Augusto Vivesos. What if he starts his Rumble? Like, what if he starts his Rumble? Then we're out here.
Mike,
are these cards on Tapology or something?
They're on. It's the Score.com. The Score.com usually puts
does
them
Bellator.
up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, aren't these, what's it called? Bellator like fights free now? Like, I feel like the last couple I've watched on YouTube for free.
I don't know if it's YouTube, but I've definitely watched it somewhere where it's like just allowed, like, allowed, like it's just whatever.
Yeah.
Showtime. No, I think this is their first Showtime card, and Showtime is premium. Yeah, so.
Okay. Also on the card is Pitbull. I don't know if that's Patricio.
Probably no, it's the other one.
Brother. It's the other one. And then Michael Venom Page does his cameo.
He's fighting someone legit. He's fighting someone legit, though. I gotta give him credit.
Who's he fighting?
I can't remember his first name, but the dude has a 17-3 record, and he's beating some guys. He's beating some dudes.
All right, we'll see. Okay.
Yeah.
So now,
what was I gonna say? Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that now. Moving on to, I guess, a final piece of news before we get into our card, and related to our card, is Michelle Waterson and Marina Rodriguez has been officially made our main event for UFC Fight Night this weekend. Gentlemen.
Well, before we do that, I just want to say, like, quickly, because we've ran out of time for it, Diego Sanchez, like, although he's lost his damn mind, they're sprinkled in him losing his damn mind and Joshua Fabia manipulating him clearly, and, the paranoia are legitimate gripes with the way the UFC does business. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. It's a shame because he's not necessarily the best spokesperson for that. But then again, it seems like everybody who was the golden boy for the UFC during that era doesn't have a good thing to say about the UFC card. I don't know whether that's, a reflection of their business practices or just a reflection of the fight game and the kind of personalities drawn to it. But
I think the reason why, and I have a psychological theory on it, but like it could be me being a square peg in a round hole, admittedly. But I've always said the UFC had to change really quickly. It used to be this kind of mom and pop shop where it was kind of like we're all in it together, we're all in debt, but we're all trying our best. And if you work with us and you try your hardest, we'll reward you in the end. And they did some things with Chuck, for example, when Chuck was on like a 4-fight losing streak because he was so faithful to the company. They gave him a cushiony, high-paying job, and Chris Lieben, they kept him on payroll even though they really shouldn't have. When he was well past his prime. And there's other examples. Clay Guida, they keep giving him not softball fights, but they keep giving him fights where he can be winnable in them. And I think for guys who don't get that treatment, like a John Fitch, for example, right, where you don't have that relationship with the boss and you don't get that treatment, even though you kind of sacrifice for the sport, you don't get your moment in the sun or your reward for sacrificing for the sport when it was a mom and pop shop. So when it goes corporate and you're not getting rewarded, your feelings get hurt. So I think a lot of these guys, they're just hurt. Their feelings are hurt.
Yeah, but I also think, the UFC is engaged in questionable practices.
Oh, 100%.
And has a very hazy profit sharing kind of model, in my opinion.
You call it hazy, I call it downright BS, but
hilarious. I'm not gonna go that far, but yeah, no, I do think
85 to 15, David. 85 to 15 is not BS.
I think there could be a more equitable distribution. I don't know why, athletes are entitled to 40%, or even 60%, like in some leagues. I know in soccer, for example, like wages and transfer salaries and transfer fees take up like, I must have read something like 75% of most clubs' turnover, which is crazy, or expenses, I should say, not turnover, expenses. But still, like, I do think that fighters should be getting paid a little bit more. And yeah, they're entitled to that, but I don't know about the 40%.
Please excuse my unprofessionalism.
Very unprofessional.
I'm sorry.
You're off the pod.
No, like I here's the thing. I think at this point in the UFC, I think 40 is a little ridiculous because you do need to reinvest in the company.
All right. Like, we're not going.
No, hold on.
Because I don't know what the UFC's finances is. I don't know what their overhead is. Like, I doubt they have thousands of staff. So I really don't know. It's tough without having the details.
I think you have to get to they're in the they get sold for $4 billion. They're currently public. I think you would have to have a share price, like just eyeballing it, you would have to have a share price of $100 a share before you can get to a point where you can do a 40-50% split. If my economics serve me correctly, right? But 30 is not unreasonable. Why is and the number one thing to kill all businesses is greed. So why are we doing this?
Michael, the number one, that's not true. That's not true that the number one thing that kills businesses is greed at all. That's the one thing that drives businesses, if anything.
It always kills a business when people are disgruntled and don't work because you're having a split of 85-15, right? And then you have to then the quality of your staff is just lower, and it always kills a business because then it becomes about profit and not about quality of service. To be fair,
I don't hear too many complaints from UFC staff, so it seems like they're actually taken care of pretty well. They're probably unionized, which would be a hilarious thing.
Isn't that?
Anyway, guys, we really have to spend at least 15-20 minutes on this card, and then wrap up, because if not, this episode is going to be forever. Okay, so do you guys want to maybe start at the main event, Michelle Waterson versus Marina Rodriguez? Jeremy, what are your thoughts? I'm kidding.
I got. Yeah, let's switch it up. Let's switch it up. Let's throw it to the camera.
Yeah, why not? Jeremy, you know what? Take it away.
You know
What did
what?
you think about what Michelle Waterson's
You know,
Taekwondo, and do you think she poses some problem from the Muay Thai focused Marina Rodriguez?
I love how we're starting. I love how we're starting with the guy who thought that this week was Chandler Oliveira. I literally exposed myself in the last pod. I really didn't know. I thought it was gonna be 261, 1 week break, 262. No. Um. Yeah. So I mean, it's a decent enough substitute for a main card. I thought, it should be an exciting bout. You got this one girl who's like who's probably in the top tier of power, knockout power in Rodriguez. So I really like that aspect to her game. But then Waterson has the experience and everything, and but at the same time, I don't know. Why am I trying to be an analysis? Give me Marina Rodriguez. I think the power. I think the power in her hands. I think she. I don't think that Waterson's got the strength. Even though Marina Rodriguez can be taken down a little bit, I don't think.
That's actually not bad analysis. You're doing a good job, I gotta say.
I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best. I think Waterson's just not strong enough really to take her down and trying to keep her there. I think Marina Rodriguez will eventually catch her. Hopefully in the third round, because if it's after that, she might struggle a little bit. Give me Rodriguez. Give me Rodriguez by knockout.
I was gonna come in here and say Waterson, but I might go Rodriguez. My only worry with Rodriguez is that she does have a susceptibility to getting taken down, and she seems comfortable with working off her back, which is good and bad. You know what I'm saying? In the context of MMA, you want to get your ass back up there. But if you're comfortable with working off your back and not getting submitted, then people can't really do things to you off of your back. See Ronda Marcos, where she drew Ronda Marcos because of that exact reason. On the feet, not a contest. On the ground, she just kind of allowed Ronda Marcos to work while she tried to submit her. And I think Michelle Waterson has an underrated grappling game. It's not great, but it's underrated. So I think Michelle Waterson can exploit that. What I will say, though, is it's not like Michelle Waterson is bad on her feet either. She does have a tendency to be all boxing or all kicking. Like there's no kind of mix up in her game like Marina Rodriguez has, but I think when you just stylistically look at it, I would have said Waterson, but Jeremy's kind of changing my mind a little bit. Like Marina has power, so yeah.
Yeah. Shouts out to these women. Really, really give my all due respect to them, but I'm not excited by this headline at all. And I'm not sure.
You know what's crazy though? I think there's better fights on the card that could have been.
That's what I'm saying. That's the confusing part, but it's fine. Let them, not let them, but shouts out to them. Yay, promote women's MMA, but this is not a fight that I think that
next thing David's gonna be like, girls, it's their turn, and aren't they beautiful?
Yeah, really. Like, how about them women?
Sexist.
Like,
yeah,
really.
Sexist.
Imagine. They say Rodriguez is the favorite for this. I'm gonna go with Waters, just because I know.
I'm more inclined. I was actually gonna go with Waterson. I thought Waterson could actually pose some threats to Marina. From a grappling perspective. And here's the thing, Michelle Waterson, as much as press as she does get, she's not that exciting to watch.
No. Like, she's got a flashy style, but yeah. I've watched a few of her fights, and they're not like barn burners for sure.
Yeah, for whatever reason.
Is Michelle Waterson the karate hottie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, she just even though she does a lot of flashy kicks and has some flashy highlights, her fights themselves are just not. they're not very exciting, but it's
Yeah.
because she's kind of defensively responsible
Yeah.
with her. So I think Marina is going to have some trouble getting to her early, and I think that you know what? Give me Waterson. Give me Waterson. I think Jeremy was changing my mind a little bit, but I'm going to stick with my guns. Give me Waterson to win this one.
No, I got Marino. I got Rodriguez with the.
Rodrigo. Marino. The next fight is actually a Marino or a Morono. And did you know Marino means brown in Spanish? So that was your little tidbit for the day. But anyway, we have Murano, who I'm actually not familiar with, stepping in for Diego Sanchez, who we spoke about earlier, against Don Cerrone. Gentlemen, rather than asking for who's going to win this fight, do you think this should be Don Cerrone's last fight in the UFC?
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was going to be his last fight anyway.
Win or
But
lose.
I thought that was the whole plan, right? A retirement fight between.
Win or lose.
Yeah.
Win or lose.
Yeah.
Like he's done. He's proven it all. He doesn't have to. There's really nothing left on the table. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. Shouts
You know,
out to Don
just to bring
Cerrone.
up Diego Sanchez again, though. Diego Sanchez, one of his things that he wanted to do was, interesting tidbit, he wanted to bring out Spencer Fisher in his corner for the last UFC fight. And so this is an interesting thing. Spencer Fisher was a former UFC fighter who's now struggling with brain trauma. And actually, I think he's got dementia right now. I think he's been diagnosed with dementia. So he actually wanted to bring him out to talk about kind of and he wanted him in his corner. So I guess, it was supposed to be this little kind of thing of like, hey, here's his moment.
Nah, bro. Nah.
I'm just saying that's what he wanted to do. Don't shoot the messenger.
But shouts out to him, I guess. No, that wouldn't have. They're not gonna interview him. So like, what statement are you really trying to make?
Hey, the thing he said was he wanted to make us he wanted to make it a point to be like, hey, you do get chewed up and spit out here, but
yeah, no, for real. I mean, that's a good point, but I think there are other ways to make that point rather than bringing out a literal show pony.
I think he's
actually like, hey guys, see what could happen? Like, yeah, no, that's kind of messed up.
Yeah, but I think Spencer Fisher legitimately does corner people now. Like it's not
does he?
Yeah, I think
I thought he was just like not like a random dude, but like yeah, I thought due to his diminished state that he wouldn't be in the kind of condition to corner people, and
probably not.
He was not.
Yeah,
willing
probably
to do
not.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. This is probably my favorite fight on this card. Is the fight of the clones. For a really long time, I thought these guys were the same guy, but they're not. Neil Magny versus Jeff Neal. Can you tell me? Am I lying?
They fight completely different.
But they're like the same guy, though.
Is it because they're black, David?
Hilarious. I'm going to look that up right now. But who do you guys think is going to win?
I can see a world where either of them can, to be honest, because I can see a world where Neil Magny puts Jeff Neal in a grind cycle. But I can also see a world where because Neal's faster, more explosive, and is a good striker, which is kind of what disappointed me about that Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fight, is because he kind of got outclassed. But I can see a world where Jeff Neal just starches him because he is a good technical striker who happens to have literal dynamite in his hands. So, yeah.
Give me the dynamite in his hands. Give me Jeff Neal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. This one's tough. I'm just looking up Neil Magny's record. He's coming off a loss
to Michael Chiesa.
Michael Chiesa, who really outgrappled him when that's kind of his forte, if I'm not mistaken. I've been really impressed with both of these guys' wins. As you said, Jeff Neal's more of a striker with the power, and Neil Magny's more of a grappler. But I'm just trying to think, who would I have in this one? I'm gonna go with Neil Magny. Neil Magny, just because, man, some of his wins over, I'm just gonna go through his record here, so I'm not just making up names, but the Leech, Robbie Lawler, Anthony Rocco Martin.
That's a good fight.
Yeah, I feel like he's had a few dominant wins, as opposed to Jeff Neal, who has definitely fought well. But if I'm not mistaken, his wins are over like Bilal Muhammad. If you remember that fight, that wasn't too long ago. But also Mike Perry. So I don't feel like he has the same kind of resume as Neil Magny. So I'm gonna go with Neil Magny on that one.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean,
Another fight. I don't know if this is a late announcement. Mo Green, Crochet Boss versus Rogerio de Lima.
I don't care about this fight.
Okay,
Next.
fine. Shouts out to Crochet Boss, man. Come on, you gotta get some W's, buddy.
What's his record?
9-5.
Yeah, next. No, stop.
Hilarious.
Gregor. Don't kick my ass, but
I just said Gregor Gillespie versus Diego Ferreira.
This is a fun fight. Why isn't this the main
one? I'm not a really big Diego Ferreira fan. I don't know why. I just feel like he's one of those underrated. One of those, especially Brazilian fighters, tend to get really good under the radar. If that makes any sense, like they tend to like build up wins in the UFC. Might be on like a 3-4 fight win streak before I even notice them, because no disrespect, that there's a lot of Brazilians in the UFC and they have
rich MMA
names.
culture.
Pardon?
Rich MMA culture.
MMA culture. Rich, culture of naming people very similar things. So,
yeah.
Shouts out to ONE FC Anderson Silva. But yeah, I don't know what to make of this one. I think Greg Gillespie should have enough to win in terms of the wrestling,
but
it's gonna be tough. In terms of stand-up, I think it's basically even, because neither of them are like really stand-up fighters.
Well, Gregor's. So this is the thing, right? Like, Ferreira has a couple tools that can make life very difficult. He pressures really well. He's got really nice like overhand. Like, he's got like a nice like jab. He'll like jab upstairs, jab to the body, and overhand right. So bop, 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 right? And he kind of got Anthony Pettis with it a couple times when they fought. So he's got a couple tools, but they're kind of like tools he throws out there and not stuff that he throws educated. Like, he's not educated with it. I would wonder what Gregor's chin is like after getting head kicked into the shadow realm by Kevin Lee, but he's given himself enough time to recover, so you'd think he'd be okay. But the thing, okay, you want to know why I'm kind of worried about this one? Because I feel like Gregor might fall into some submission.
Isn't
Greg? Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, isn't Gregor Gillespie the better submission artist?
No, he's a better wrestler.
But Diego Ferreira, if I'm not mistaken, is like a BJJ champion or something like that.
I think he's a Mundial champion. He might have won ADCC too.
So. Yeah, like I'm pretty sure he's like pretty higher ranks or highly rated when it comes to like BJJ. But if I'm not mistaken, Gregor Gillespie is also like a historic wrestler, like college wrestler, if I'm not mistaken.
If not for Jordan Burroughs, he'd be in the Olympics right now.
Yeah, so like they both have a pretty decent resume, and as I said, I feel like they're kind of dead even when it comes to their stand-up. So it's gonna be an interesting fight, but I'm gonna go with the better wrestler just because. Like Gillespie's shown, like other than that, if you really think about it, that Kevin Smith fight is the only fight where we've seen.
Sorry, who?
Kevin. Oh my goodness. But I feel like that's the only fight that we've seen where he's had any kind of flaw in this game. If that makes any sense.
But like, why am I so scared that like? See, look, I picked Gillespie. I'm with you. I think give me Gillespie, but. I'm so scared that Gillespie's going to fall into a guillotine or an omoplata or like a, you know what I'm saying? Because like in my head, how I get wrestlers, if I really want to be cute, is I fall on my back and then fall into a triangle or an omoplata or a guillotine if they're going too high, right? Kind of like how I fell into one in my last fight. But, like that's how I would do it if I want to be cute. So, I feel like if Diego Ferreira is a great champion, like a BJJ champion, and he's got kind of that old school triangle armbar omoplata style, wouldn't he attack it? Especially since he's so aggressive off his back anyway.
Yeah, but if you're Gregor Gillespie, don't you know that's exactly what he's gonna do?
Fair. So you would come in, you'd come in like literally head to lat on like a takedown. You'd put him in the grind cycle, attack his back,
Yeah, you'd be
punch him.
drilling like guillotine escapes like the entire time.
No, that's fair. That's fair. But like if it's, let's say it's a 10 finger or an arm in or like then it's not that simple, right? I don't know, man. It's
Jeremy, what do you think?
I think I'm gonna go with Gregor Gillespie. So, I mean, I'm hearing all of Michael's points. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with the wrestler personally. I think.
I'm with you. I'm with you guys. Like I'm with you.
Just watching his film, I just think he's got the edge.
Yeah. To
edge out those rounds.
Okay, the last couple of fights, I'm just gonna mention them because I don't think we need a detailed breakdown. Angela Hill versus Amanda Ribas.
Give me Ribas.
And then Felipe Lins, I think, versus Ben Rothwell.
I don't care about this fight. Although Ben Rothwell, shouts out to you. Apparently he was pretty supportive of Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, one of the few people to actually speak out during the protest. So shouts out to Ben Rothwell, man.
Yeah, it was. I think him, Devin Clark, and Aljamain Sterling were one of the few people. And surprise, surprise, they're all the ones who are hated.
Oh, yeah, and I can't believe I didn't talk about this. Did you see Dana White doing the rounds last week on the various conservative platforms talking about how the UFC is apolitical? My G, you can't invite the governor to sit at ringside and then say you're apolitical. Get a gosh. You can't do a literal campaign recruitment ad for Donald Trump and then say, like, you're apolitical. What are you talking about?
I would rather Dana White just come out and say he is conservative and the UFC wants to promote conservative.
It's so obvious. You don't even have to say
it. Because I think it just insults the intelligence of a lot of people who love this sport. Like I can handle, because do
you think, real question, do you think Dana is really just trying to like turn away young fans? Or does he really believe like he's correct in a lot of these things?
Well, because this is the thing.
I don't see how like any in-touch person with social media would come out. Maybe MMA fans are different and MMA community is completely different.
I was gonna say the MMA community, you'd be surprised. Like even this is why even I would say, like, if I had to do like a political test, you'd be surprised where I'd land. Because you'd be surprised how much of the MMA community, I would even say it's a majority, have conservative values, even though they tend to fit the counterculture narrative, right?
Yo, scrap up, guys. Let's scrap up. Man, knock if you buck. What is this? Are you kidding me?
No, like, I'm telling you, you'd be very surprised. There's very few kind of liberal MMA, fans, at least anymore. I would say it's kind of shifted.
His liberals are soft.
Hey, man, look, I wouldn't even say like.
I'm just saying what they would say, David. That's not what I'm saying.
No, I'm not even disagreeing with you, man. I'm not even disagreeing with you. I just think, like, what is going on? Like, have we reached the point as a community, the MMA community, where, like, we're just going to let this dude say whatever? Like, whatever. After the last main event, this dude, last, like, main card, the UFC 262, this dude really comes out and said, oh, yeah, I wasn't really paying attention. They asked him, Dana, did you stop any more streamers tonight? And he said, oh, yeah, I wasn't even paying attention to the streamers, man. Like, it was such a great fight. Like, I don't think anybody was really streaming. Like, come on, man. Like, come on.
But that's kind of what Dana's brand is. Like, remember, this is the same guy who came. Remember when he kind of snuck it on the fighters in the first Ultimate Fighter that they were going to be fighting to advance through the competition, and they didn't want to fight. And he came in there, he was like, guys, do you want to be a fucking fighter? And, like, I'm not going to lie, it saved the company. But if you really think about it, that's a crappy business practice to sneak it on guys that they'll be fighting. And then there was I'll throw you out so fast your head will spin quote. Then there was it's fucking illegal. This is Dana White's brand, and people love that about him, right? They love that. That tells it like it is. That kind of brand, it works. And I think there is something to be said for when the world zigs, UFC fans zag. So if the world gets conservative again, you'll be surprised. They'll go left. They will go left because that's the way they do it, right? And when the world is right and when the world's left, they'll go right. It's just the way it goes.
You're right. It is a counterculture thing, and I think we shouldn't kid ourselves and think that MMA fans represent the majority of society. We are definitely a counterculture, like 100%.
Like we go the opposite side.
But still, like, come on, the UFC is not an apolitical organization. That's just such garbage. Like, that's so embarrassing. How incorrect that is. But you know what?
I'd be okay with them being a conservative organization. I'd be completely okay with it.
I'm not okay with it, but that's my own personal political ideology. So I don't know.
Fair enough.
Anyway, guys, we've reached the end of today's preview video, which was barely about the UFC Fight Night card coming up, Waterson versus Rodriguez. Is there any other things that you guys are dying to say for the people out there?
Oh, no. Wait, can I threaten the children? I worked on it all week.
Sure, go for it. You threaten the children, Mike.
All right. Subscribe, like, share. Click that little bell thingy, in the side, right? And if you don't do it, I'm gonna come to your home. All right.
You're off to a terrible start already.
No, I'm just right. And I will defecate your washroom with all of my bowels in the washroom, right? Then
you said you practiced this, my G?
Yes, I did all week. And then as you are on the floor dying from these noxious fumes, I will repeatedly kick you in the stomach. There it is. I'm king of earth.
Went in a weird direction.
You're not doing anything to help our name of the whole washroom toilet thing. Like, you're not helping the Asiffo name.
Jeez, man. Jeez. Yeah, I don't even know where to go after that. Michael, to play us out, please.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Right? Fuck it, we'll do it live. In this crazy mix-up world where, Michelle Waterson versus Marina Rodriguez is our main event. Good job, by the way. I'm not shitting on that too much, guys. Remember, we got 3 things. We got life, we got family, and Joshua Fabia. Stay safe, everybody.
Peace out, guys.